This video is brought to you by MoviePalette.com. Hey everyone, do you have a favorite movie that you would love to hang on your wall but you can't think of what scene or what poster to get? Well, now you can get the entire movie on one high quality canvas. With MoviePalette.com, you can get every scene from your favorite movie, or more specifically, the dominant color of every scene from your favorite movie in chronological order on a great high quality canvas. It also comes with a silver engraving of the title down at the bottom. Has rubber stoppers on the back to keep it from bouncing. And they have a huge catalog of what to choose from. Whether you're a horror fan, or a fan of sci-fi, Marvel, Japanese anime, Disney animation, drama, or Oscar classics, there's a movie palette for you. And right now, MoviePalette.com is having a sale for 50% off for their Halloween sale. But if you go right now, and if you enter room 15, you'll get 15% off of the movie palette of your choice. That's ROOM15 for 15% off of your movie palette. Again, this is a great value for a great piece of home decor that looks great for any film and for any film buff and anywhere in your home. You will definitely like this product. Mine is of The Shining, and I could not be happier with it. So definitely go to MoviePalette.com and enter ROOM15 for 15% off of your palette. Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, back with another review. As I continue my month of October run through of both Stephen King film adaptations and horror anthologies. And for this review, it's going to be another horror anthology. This is one that I picked up a couple years ago when I first started building my anthology collection, and I did my first run-through of anthologies. But this is one that I never got to, and it's also one I've never seen. And then I was debating on doing this when I did my marathon of extreme horror, because I've seen this come up in some people's list of extreme horror, or people that review extreme films have done this. When I first bought it, that was kind of the intrigue, was anthology, more extreme. I probably will say this is one of the more extreme anthologies I've seen, I guess. I wouldn't really count Subconscious Cruelty, because that's not like a traditional anthology. It feels more like a compilation of short films. This has, your wraparound segments, your bits in between stories. Oddly enough, one of the directors of one of the segments, Kareem Hussein, also directed Subconscious Cruelty. And I guess he did the cinematography for all the segments. At least that's what I see here. He's the only one listed under cinematography. There's 6 stories, which can be both good and bad. I mean, one of the reasons why I love anthologies is because you get a bit of variety. You get a quick little story, move on to the next one, get a handful of stories in the same amount of time. It's great for October. I love anthologies. However, this really felt different. I mean, the name definitely suits it. It's from 2011, and it is The Theater Bazaar. Now, yeah, it's definitely a bizarre, definitely one of the weirdest anthologies I've seen. And this doesn't really have, like, normally with anthologies, you might get like a classic campy horror feel, or maybe like an EC, Tales from the Crypt type feel, or something. This is like 6 little art house shorts, which even the one directed by Tom Savini, maybe that's not as art housey, or even the first segment, which is directed by Richard Stanley, but it does overall kind of have this art house look to it. And the style of stories that this has and the wraparound segment is inspired by the Grand Guignol, if I pronounce that correctly, a style of theater in the late 19th or early 20th century that brought natural horror, melodrama, along with gory set pieces, more sexuality, and just a lot of kind of a amoral, cynical roster of characters. And these stories do kind of feel like one act plays, very limited sets and cast, usually just building off one small idea, which is fine, but uh, it didn't really give me that Sweeney Todd, Sleepy Hollow type of Grand Guignol feel. The only time it did was during the wraparound segments, which even that is kind of cool, where we see our host, Udo Kier, who's been in a shit ton of things. Everything from Suspiria to Rob Zombie's Halloween to just about everything else in between. He comes out as this really cool, like, almost looks like paper mache, just old theater puppet. He has like all these clicks as he kind of moves like a puppet, but with each story he becomes more human. And this woman that's been drawn to the theater and watches these stories becomes more like a puppet. That was more Grand Guignol than a lot of these stories. I will say each one has a decent idea or a concept, but because you're telling 6 stories in 2 hours, you really only get 10 to 20 minutes. I feel like these are more pitch meeting shorts. Like, if I watch something like Creepshow or, you know, Body Bags or Trick or Treat or something, especially Creepshow, I feel like each story has a beginning, middle, and end. They feel like short stories. Whereas this just feels like ideas that they're not really fleshed out, characters aren't fleshed out. It's basically just how weird can we make these shorts? Now, it is weird. It is more extreme than some other anthologies, but I would not put this in the category of extremity like some other films that I've done. Even though Kareem Hussein did direct one. But you have a mixture, there's Lovecraftian horror, there's torture, there's just weird, a fetishist horror, there's more of introspective, a metaphorical stuff going on. And probably the most well done short is actually the one that's not a horror story. It's the one right in the middle, and I'm guessing that's where the melodrama comes in, and maybe just for like a little bit of levity, just to break it up. Even though it is kind of depressing, it's poetic but depressing at the same time. I say that's the most all around well done short, and it's the shortest. That's the one called The Accident. But so yeah, Jeremy Kasten directed the wraparound, which has Udo Kier as our host, and I do like the atmosphere with like the creepy puppets, the sort of circus-looking stage production. That looks really cool, and creepy. First is Mother of Toads, directed by Richard Stanley. I Love You by Buddy Giovinazzo, if I pronounce that correctly. Wet Dreams, directed by Tom Savini. We all know who he is. Not his first time directing. I believe that was the Night of the Living Dead, his version of Night of the Living Dead. I'm not calling it a remake because it was pre-2003. That was more just newer versions. Douglas Buck directed The Accident, which was the short, well-done, non-horror one. Very poetic. Kareem Hussein, which is the one that I was looking forward to the most, because I thought that one would at least probably be the most extreme, but also probably the most visually interesting or something. I thought that was going to be the one that had the the most visuals or just the most interesting to look at. It kind of was. It definitely had the most interesting concept out of all of them. And then David Gregory did the final story, which is called Sweets, which it might be the grossest out of all of them, but not for reasons that you would expect. Now, it does have some familiar faces apart from Udo Kier. We have Catriona McCall, who's been in a number of Lucio Fulci films, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, House by the Cemetery, a number of Italian films. I mean, she was also in... Was she in any Jolly? No, she wasn't. But also... Tom Savini does have an acting role. I don't know how I'm going to pronounce this. Candia T.O. Horn, who's been in things like Hemlock Grove, Letterkenny, My Name is Evil. She was the one from the Vision Stains, the one that's directed by Hussein. But then, who was the... Oh, Lynn Lowry. She was in I Drink Your Blood. She was in both versions of The Crazies. She was in Cronenberg's Shivers. She has an appearance. And then just a bunch of people that I didn't recognize. But apparently each... Well, it's a co-production between both Severin Films and Metaluna Productions out of France. So this, oddly enough, this is not... I mean, it has the Severin logo on it, but, like, I don't think this version was put out by Severin, like, through their catalog. I know there is a newer Blu-ray of this. I'm fine with just having this. So apparently each director was given the exact same budget, schedule, and kind of direction of how to take their story and their narrative. They're all original ideas, save for the first short, Mother of Toads by Richard Stanley, which is based on the short story of the same name by Clark Ashton Smith. Quick rundown. Mother of Toads is about a couple who are visiting France. They come across a witch who's very Lovecraftian. It has stuff to do with reptiles. That's one with Catriona McCall. I Love You is about a overprotective husband who finds out his wife has been cheating on him. Wet Dreams is about an abusive husband who has graphic dreams about being castrated and tortured by his wife. He has to find a way how to stop these dreams. This one has Tom Savini as his therapist, who's also really weird. The Accident, there's not really much to spoil. It really is just about, a mother and daughter talking. The grandmother has just died, and it's how sort of... It kind of just a representation of when a child first grasps the concept of death. Because, she's told grandma died, she's not coming back, and she witnesses an accident featuring a motorcyclist and a deer. That's it. And then this other biker has to slit the deer's throat because it's suffering. And, it keeps going back and forth between the conversation about grandma and her seeing this accident and her coming to terms with and understanding what death is. I mean, it's beautifully shot. It's told mostly through the voiceover, through like flashbacks, but you know, poignant, short, sweet. Then you have the Hussein short, Vision Stains, where this woman is addicted to extracting people's memories. How does she do that? Well, at the moment of death, when your life flashes before your eyes, she's able to kill people, stick a syringe into their eye, take the memory out, inject it into her own eye, and see their memories, see their life. And she gets a rush out of it, also because she can't dream. So this is what she does. But when she takes it a step further, she's given the ability to dream, but there's a price to pay. And then Sweets is just about these food fetishists that the guy's getting dumped, and he begs for one more chance, and she's like, all right, I'll give you another chance. Meet me at this party later. And this one's probably the grossest just because, one, the house they live in is just squalor of just sweets everywhere and just gross. There's a lot of just up close with like whipped cream and icing coming out of people's mouths and kissing. And then later there's more food other than just sweets, but you know, people just eating so much that they puke. Of course, it's not real. It's not like a Lucifer Valentine film, but just the idea of it. I'll say spoilers here. Well, I won't get into spoilers because it does try to do like a twist, but I'll say the twists don't feel as clever, or they don't feel as I was gonna say gut punchy, but they don't feel as well executed as, say, a Tales from the Crypt episode or segment. And you know, being how short they are, just when you're kind of getting what the story's about, it throws in the twist, and then it's over. I mean, they're all decently shot, but again, they all just feel more like concepts, just ideas, and more like a pitch short rather than an actual short film. Again, watch something like Creepshow, it feels like a beginning, middle, and an end, whereas these just feel like ideas. But I mean, it has its weird moments. It has its graphic moments. I was a little surprised to see some CGI effects in the segment that Tom Savini directed. That was probably the goriest, or probably the bloodiest, but... And then some of them, they're so under-explained because they're so short that the endings are kind of confusing, or just kind of leave you wondering what exactly is going on. So it's definitely not the best anthology I've seen. If they had just stretched the runtime out a little bit more, I mean, there's a Japanese, I believe it's a Japanese film I have, Kwaidan, if I pronounce that correctly, which that's another one I need to get to. Only that one doesn't feel as Halloween-y for like an anthology. That I think is like 2.5 hours. If they had actually fleshed these stories out, I think there actually could have been something. Each one of these stories could have been pretty interesting. But instead, they just feel like they're at the concept stage. It's not that any of them were poorly acted. Well, some of them kind of were. I will say, each one does feel kind of different. I mean, Mother of Toads is like the creature feature. I Love You is like the character drama. Really just kind of characters and their motivations unfolding through dialogue, which I appreciated. Wet Dreams is the gory torture porn segment. The Accident is just like the little intermission, even though it's the most well-made one. I would say Vision Stains is the art house one, and then Sweets is just like the gross out schlocky one. So you still do get a bit of variety, but I will say, what really gave me the most atmospheric interest was the wraparound. This creepy theater, the Udo Kier puppet turning more human. I thought that was cool. So definitely not the best. Definitely not as extreme as I thought it was going to be, especially with some of the names that are attached to it. But I would say it's worth seeing at least once because there are some good ideas in here. They're just not fleshed out that well. Well, now I'm just going to get into the twist, so spoilers. Uh, so the first one, Mother of Toads, the couple, they run into this witch. There's like Lovecraftian stuff going on. They talk about Necronomicon, like the pentagram symbol. She talks about ancient gods and whatnot. Well, they leave. They find like a cemetery. I guess he's an anthropologist. He's probably one of the worst actors out of the film. He wants to go back and ask some questions, but he's drugged, and then Catriona MacColl appears younger. He's drugged, so he's seduced, kind of like Midsummer. But then the younger version of her is now just like covered in slime as they have sex. His girlfriend or wife comes back, finds him, goes to drive away, and she's attacked by some amphibian monster, which the guy's having sex with, turns into. He wakes up, doesn't know what happened. He goes back to the car, finds the rotted body of his wife with giant bullfrogs all over her. Then we kind of get like purple and green, the predator vision, as this amphibian monster goes to attack him. I Love You. The husband, which kind of looks like that dad character in like 28 Weeks Later. He wakes up with a cut on his hand, doesn't know how it got there. His wife's not answering her phone. She's been gone for like a week. You find out she is seeing someone else, and she's getting ready to leave. She comes back, tells him that she's leaving. They have sex one more time, and then she tells him the truth. And you're kind of on the guy's side with this. I don't know if we were meant to hate this woman or what, but not only does she say, I'm leaving you for someone else, but I've been seeing him for a while, 3 years in fact, or 3 years was the first time. I can't even count how many other men I've slept with. Every time I've gone away on a trip, that's what I was doing. Also, she even says, your penis and my vagina have never liked each other. You've never made me get off. You're too gentle and whisper when you climax or something. Like, I really need to be like fucked hard. Really tearing this guy down. So then her new guy, who I guess is a friend of his, shows up. And then we just kind of cut back to the beginning when he wakes up, the cut on his hand, finds that the new guy stabbed to death and his wife stabbed to death. Good gore effects. But she's still standing there getting ready to leave, like, I'm still leaving you. Like it was a hallucination or a vision, but he ended up killing her. And again, you're kind of on the guy's side. They really made you hate her. Wet Dreams. Yeah, the guy is abusive to his wife, but he has dreams of this other woman. I believe it's one he's having an affair with. It opens up with them undressing for sex, and when it pans down, she has like this like spider, whatever insect has like large pinchers on its mouth. That's down there with like eyes and feelers coming up, giant CGI pinchers. And so Tom Savini tells him, Oh, and also, like, his wife makes him breakfast, which he gives him eggs and sausage. The sausage looks like a castrated dick. So he's starting to see things in real life as well. Savini tells him, when you know you're dreaming, count backwards from 3, you'll wake up. Well, come to find out, his wife is also having dreams about torturing him. And there's so many fake out dream sequences, like when you think something's going to happen, he wakes up. So finally, which you find out she's having an affair with Savini as well. Every relationship in this movie is not that good. So then finally, when he wakes up, he's got this head brace on. His wife's in front of him. And, you know, he looks all pale. He sees, like, his dick in a jar. So he thinks he's dreaming. And he says, you know, all I gotta do is wake up. And then I'm gonna kill you in real life. But we pan out and see that he's completely, you know, all his limbs are cut off. He's got this brace to hold his head up. And I don't know if this is a dream or if this is like real life and he just can't tell dream and reality. I'm guessing, I want to say they drugged him so he thinks he's dreaming. And he says, all I gotta do is close my eyes and count back from 3. But she grabs that eyelash tool, cuts his eyelids off. Cool effects, like where his eyes are stuck like that. A little bit of CGI when he has the dream of his wife putting him and his mistress on these medieval racks, and the mistress is pulled apart. So it just ends after he gets his eyelids cut off. I already explained the accident. Vision stains. The lead doesn't have any lines. It's just all this sort of poetic, people might say pretentious voiceover as to why she does what she does. She can't dream. It's the best feeling in the world to see other people's memories. Well, when she goes too far, because we see her do it to 2 people. The third one is a very pregnant woman, which we see her smoking crack because she goes after homeless people and drug addicts, because women that have suffered have the best memories, I guess. She's smoking crack, so then when she attacks her, sticks the needle in her stomach, she's crying, saying, not my baby, please not my baby. But you were, don't hurt my baby, but you were just smoking crack. And I don't know if it's just like embryonic fluid or if she can tell that she's hitting the eyeball. But she injects that, and then there's this crazy trip. She hears this voice telling her something, and she's led to stab her own eyes out. So now she has the ability to dream, but now she's blind and can't see anything in real life. And then Sweets, I thought it was going to go the route that this girlfriend isn't real, because every time we get they're breaking up in this disgusting house with just sweets everywhere. And he's just imagine Alan from Sleepaway Camp in a worse condition, like how stained his shirt is and messed up hair. He's always talking like with his mouth real big and there's sweets all in his teeth. Every time we get a flashback to the beginning of their relationship, like when they're kind of feeding each other sweets and then kissing, the colors are very saturated. It looks pretty good. It looks interesting. But she always looks different. Her hair is always dyed a vibrant color. I thought she was going to be just like a physical manifestation of the addiction to sweets. No. And the party that she invites him to is just more food fetishes. That are just pile themselves with food. Even this one woman, there's 2 women and a guy talking about how important they are to themselves. Even dialogue like me, 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 me. That's a conversation. This other chick standing there, she's eating, she just vomits all over the chest of this woman. And then she just takes like a gingerbread cookie scoops it up, eats it, and then gives her a bite. But that's when she leads, or the boyfriend is let in, they kill him, and he's made the main course. And I thought it was going to have this other twist where everyone's like a zombie because everyone's really pale and undead looking. But no, it's just these food fetishists. And I'd probably say that's the grossest out of all of them, just because the up close shots of just like whipped cream and ice cream coming out, and just up close of chewing, and then them going in for really wet tongue kisses, and just some of the flashbacks, like a tub of whipped cream, and she puts a funnel in his mouth and just crams all this whipped cream shit, and then at the end of Udo Kier's Full Human, he takes the woman that's been watching, who's now a puppet, puts her in a trunk, shuts it just before he does. We see her eyes open. End of movie. Now, it's definitely bizarre. It does deserve its name, but I guess the whole point is that these are supposed to feel like one act plays, supposed to be like Grand Guignol type stories. But they still just feel like ideas. They don't feel like stories. There's no real build up or escalation or any kind of real narrative. They just kind of feel like ideas. I wouldn't have minded if it was just a little bit longer, so that each story could have been fleshed out, or even take out. I'd probably say the weakest was the first one. That's usually the case. So that the others could have been, except for the accident. The accident was a nice little intermission that was very well made. I wouldn't really call this a rant because it was interesting enough just to see how weird that it was going to get. But this is not the kind of Halloween season anthology that you would want to watch. I'd stick with Creepshow or Trick or Treat or any of the Amicus anthologies. It's interesting, but it could have been explored a bit more. I'd say The Accident was the best made one all around, but I would say the most interesting story and probably the best filmed story would be Vision Stains by Kareem Hussein. So that is Theater Bizarre. Not really sure what else to say about it. I do have a few more anthologies I want to get to, a few more Stephen King films as well. So stay tuned for those. We're almost halfway through October. So got plenty more to do. So stay tuned, and thank you for watching.